Practically all of our money system is created by the private banks. Now, what's at stake here is something that we ordinarily are unaware of. We don't, in a vague way, we know that money is created out of nothing, but we don't think in terms of money creation. Our experience is with fiscal policy. Governments have fiscal policies, and we have our own personal fiscal policies. We receive income, and we spend money. And we simply do not include in our thinking about money the phenomenon of the creation of money out of nothing. Now, the fact is that about 97% of our money that's circulating in our society has been created by the private banks in their process of making loans. They create this money out of nothing when they make loans. They have the right to receive from borrowers access to collateral, some valuable property that we offer to give them in case we don't pay back our loans. And in exchange for this, they can create money out of nothing. And they can charge us interest on it, and if we don't pay, they can collect our collateral. That's the kind of power they have. Now, that's not all. There's an even more crucial factor about this system that we really need to understand. And that is that when the banks, the private banks, create this money, they create only the principal. They do not create the interest that they require to be paid. So where is this interest to come from? Where are we to get it? They have set up an impossible condition for us as a collective, as a society, to meet. It's impossible for us to get the interest because it doesn't exist. We have to compete with each other for principal that has, the money that the banks have created as principal. We have to compete with each other for that in order to pay back our loans that require both principal and interest. So people borrow more in order to make the interest payments, and of course they incur interest expenses in the process. Now, this is an extremely destructive process that we unfortunately are hardly aware of. We do know about the suffering that occurs, but we don't know what the root of this suffering is. For example, this money system is inescapably inflationary. It's inflationary not because there's too much money out there, but because money is scarce. So businesses push to raise their prices whenever they can to meet the interest along with the other expenses they have, and then workers put pressure on to raise their wages. And we're set into conflict with each other in our economy, and unfortunately recently workers have been losing ground as they've been ground down by corporations that are eliminating jobs by sending them overseas, that are eliminating pensions, that are eliminating good full-time jobs, and so on. So we have a vast amount of conflict in our society as a result, primary result of this money system. So it's inflationary, it causes conflict, and it also causes recession. Now, economists who don't talk about this issue very much, economists talk about the business cycle as something that's normal and natural. Well, it is normal and natural in a money system like this, because inevitably, when people have to borrow in order to pay off their interest and run up further interest expenses, people default. It's inevitable that some people are going to default. Those who are in a weaker position economically default, and they're driven into poverty as the banks take over their collateral. And then, furthermore, this dynamic increases the wealth of the wealthy. So there's an enormous increase in disparity between the rich and poor, and further conflict between those who are trying to hold on to their wealth and those who are trying to get a fair portion of it. This is a devastatingly damaging system for all of us. And then there's another factor as well. Now, if corporations, if businesses are going to meet those interest expenses and also respond to other pressures to meet the demands of stockholders and so on, then they push for economic growth. And as you all know, endless economic growth in our finite ecological system is an impossibility. So we have a money system that promotes an unsustainable economy that damages our ecology. And so we need to understand that our money system is fundamentally at the root of these problems. Those of us who are working on this wide range of problems need to include an understanding of the money system in our analyses of these issues. And we need to recognize that it's important that we work on the money system, and not only with environmental issues of all kinds, and with poverty issues and injustice issues of all kinds. We've got to recognize how the money system is at the root of these issues. You know, governments that are not responsible could misuse this power of creating money, and we can be sure that the wealthy corporations, the wealthy interests that dominate our lives will try to control money creation through government if we manage to achieve it. So we've also got to make sure we have democratic control of it and we really understand how this system works. We need to have the knowledge that makes it possible for us to influence public policy in this area. That's why it's so important that we learn about this crucial issue. In the United States, North Dakota owns its own bank, and it's practically the only state that is not in debt because it can borrow interest-free from its own bank. And this is within, it's a conventional bank, not a federally owned bank, not a central bank. So there is this possibility that social activist groups of all kinds, and there are many of them represented here, that they pick up on this issue and get together and demand that the monetary policy be changed. Nothing like this has happened before. And so we work with your groups and get them to focus on this issue along with, as an integral part of the other issues that you're dealing with. Unions should be pushing for this, and environmental groups should be pushing it for it. All of them can. Now I can mention another thing, another promising development that has just occurred. Some of us who work through the Committee on Monetary and Economic Reform, which is represented here, have submitted a resolution to the Green Party of Canada calling for the kind of monetary policy change that we're talking about here. If you're a member of the Green Party, you can get on the internet and join in discussion of this issue and support the kind of change that's necessary, and even vote on it by online at the time of the convention, which will be occurring August 20th to 22nd, I believe. So that's a real possibility.